I really had no idea what I was getting myself into before we landed in Cape Town. We had studied and discussed the various issues that plagued South Africa and how the nation continues to grapple with the lingering effects of apartheid. On our drive from the airport, everything we had studied, read, and prepared for quickly became a reality, while the townships were staring us blatantly in the face. It was a vivid contrast from the natural beauty of the land. On one side were the beautiful beaches with waves crashing heavily onto the rocky shore, and the other side dominated by Table Mountain, as well as the other flat-top mountain peaks that seemed to follow us everywhere we went. While Shawco continued to throw us for loop after loop, it was a pleasure to volunteer both in Mitchell's Plain and Kailija, and not to be restricted to just one particular site. What continued to amaze me about these children were their positive, upbeat attitudes. One thing I've learned is that happiness is very subjective, having a different definition from person to person. Many of these children seemed to radiate happiness every time we saw them and interacted together. I know I especially developed a bond with my girl, Busiswe, or maybe it was she who developed a bond with me. Education quickly became a blaring issue in which I realized how big of a problem it is for South Africa as a nation, impeding their overall development. This sentiment became frequently reiterated from the many individuals we met throughout Cape Town. It was refreshing to visit schools such as Hector Peterson and the Mitchell's Plain School of Skills, where they seem to do an outstanding job of fostering an environment of progress and development amongst their learners. While we were halfway around the world, I quickly noticed how many problems that exist here at home in America also persisted in South Africa. The lack of passionate educators, a heavily bureaucratic public education system focused on standardized test scores, and children who are not mentally prepared to learn are just a few of the issues we see both at home and abroad. As the days went by, it became apparent to me that the consequences of apartheid were much more widespread than I had previously thought. These consequences of a system that plainly infiltrated almost every aspect of people's lives for nearly half a century has proved to be the major obstacle for this vast, resourceful nation's development as a whole. The income disparity was more than evident on our numerous excursions in and around Cape Town. In the morning, we woke up in the comfort of Miss Susan's luxurious Manderley Lodge, only to drive 15 to 20 minutes away to the townships, passing by the multitudes of tin shacks that dominated the landscape, looking as if they could blow away with the slightest gust of wind. Seeing them from a distance and outside the windows of our bus was one thing, but I never anticipated to actually walk through the streets of one, an opportunity afforded to us by the courteous and kind learners at Hector Peterson. Seeing what daily life was like in the township of Wallerstein was a very humbling experience I doubt I will ever forget. There were two things from that experience I will always remember. For one, I doubt I will ever forget the smell. It was an odor of burning rubber, urine, and raw sewage that made me realize these individuals must live in these conditions every single day. Secondly, there was a powerful sense of community that seemed to unite the township together. This municipal bond represented a sense of solidarity that I also picked up on from the children in Kailija. The culture of Ubuntu fortunately lives on. While South Africa has many issues it is grappling with, one thing I noticed was that its people have a great deal of hope. Talking with Susan, Gloria, Lindeka, and various other individuals we met only upheld this notion of hope. To quote Nelson Mandela, "Our human compassion binds us, the one to the other, not in pity or patronizingly, but as human beings who have learnt how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future." During our 3.5 weeks in South Africa, I made a lot of new friends, enjoyed different cultures other than my own. However, I did miss Chick-fil-A and Zaxby's. And I overall experienced a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I hope to carry with me throughout my life.